This organization is extremely important. We can stand alone or we can stand together.
I'm Dr. Lamont Repollet, the president of Kean, New Jersey's Urban Research University. This is Urban Impact, a podcast where we examine the complex issues facing urban communities through meaningful conversations with scholars, community leaders, and others who are driving change. Recorded and produced on our campus in Union, New Jersey, this is Urban Impact. Here are your hosts, Michael Salvatore and Barbara George Johnson.
Welcome to Urban Impact, the podcast where we explore how leaders are making a difference in cities across the country. Today, I'm joined by two distinguished guests, Mayor Adrian Mapp of Plainfield, the president of the New Jersey Urban Mayors Association, and Mayor Hector Lora of Passaic, vice president of the association. Together, they're working to tackle some of the most pressing challenges facing our communities. The New Jersey Urban Mayor Association is an organization that is comprised of 32 urban and urban-rural municipalities receiving policy and capacity building support to advance good governance from Kean University's John S. Watson Institute for Urban Policy and Research. So, let's begin with the history a little bit of the Urban Mayors Association. Mayor Mapp, what is the significance of this organization that has been in existence for the last 32 years?
Thank you, Barbara. I would say that this organization is extremely important. We can stand alone or we can stand together. And the fact that 32 urban municipalities have come together as one to look out for the interests of each of the member municipalities and to pursue courses of action that would lead to the level of support services, resources that are needed by all of our 32 different municipalities. And so the fact that we are one as the New Jersey Urban Mayors Association, we are able to advocate, whether it's through the governor's office, whether it's going down to Washington, D.C., it's important that we are able to speak with one voice as we pursue resources for each of our member municipalities. And so I must tell you that this organization is extremely important, and given its history of advocacy and being able to work towards finding solutions to the many problems that are faced by our urban centers, I think it's important, whether we're talking about housing, whether we're talking about infrastructure, healthcare, whatever it is, because we are together as one, it means that we are stronger and we are force and we have a voice at the state level as well as at the national level.
You said it, well said. I want to ask Mayor Lora, you are a member of this association. You've been a member for a number of years. How has your city of Passaic benefited?
First, serving in the role or capacity of Vice President of the Urban Mayors is an honor and privilege under the leadership of President Mayor Mapp, who has a remarkable vision and commitment to see the progress of our municipalities, of urban communities, and to continue forward. And I think for me personally, if I can echo the sentiments of the President that working collectively with my colleagues around the state, mayors that represent these communities, as we have shared interests and concerns, we're able to have our concerns amplified. Especially considering that through the Urban Mayors Association, we have opportunities to meet with representatives from the governor's office on routine calls where we get to express our concerns, where we get to share issues that are occurring within our specific municipalities, our towns, our cities, and then they hear directly from us. You know, Mayor Mapp, President Mapp had shared specifically about our interest in affordable housing. When Governor Murphy recently signed legislation that ensured that there would be a more strategic and specific approach to raising the stock or opportunities for affordable units for families. I don't want to say that we were the only cause, but I would say that we were definitely a factor in his consideration because throughout these years. I've heard the sentiments shared from President Mapp. I've seen it echoed by other urban mayors in these calls, stating the need for more affordable housing opportunities. And also there are areas, whether it's job training, whether it's redevelopment, whether it's removing red tape or bureaucracy, unless they hear from us, then they won't know. In the city of Passaic, we were able to receive funding for specific development projects, whether we're converting brownfields into mixed-use residential or creating opportunities for open space, whether playground and recreation, or whether it's advocating for the need of more funding for education in these specific settings and meetings. Look, many things go into play when you receive funding or grants from the state. We recently received in the city of Passaic over $300 million to build a brand new high school. And I recall in many of these meetings, in these governor's calls with the urban mayors, sharing the need in terms of infrastructure, in terms of the conditions for our students, in terms of development and investment in our cities, or what approach we wanted to take with existing programs like the UEZ, Urban Enterprise Zone, and then months later being able to see the cooperation from the state, so I can directly connect the advocacy on behalf of the Urban Mayors Association, the leadership of Mayor Mapp, and all of the mayors coming together and the representatives to the governor's office, but not just the governor's office. We've had opportunities to meet directly with our congressional representatives to express our concern on a larger scale, to meet with not only state legislators, but county representatives. And I think that is a direct benefit that I could point to.
I appreciate that. You raised a couple of interesting points, one of them being housing and affordable housing. So let me share that this week, the League of Municipalities Conference is being held in Atlantic City. Hundreds of participants from across the state representing municipal government. You both are presiding over sessions that focus on affordable housing. So I'm going to ask Mayor Mapp to elaborate a little bit on the point that you made about the governor's recent passing of rules for the obligation of affordable housing in all of our various municipalities, and the importance of the equity around obligations for affordable housing, and the interest and the focus in particular on affordable housing at this League of Municipalities conference. Mayor Mapp.
Well, affordable housing is something that is needed. It is in great demand, and I believe that the state and all of its municipalities have an obligation to provide decent, quality, affordable housing to the people that need it the most. And we know that there's a shortage of over 200,000 units of affordable housing. And for too long, there have been several municipalities, especially in the suburban areas, that have shied away from their affordable housing obligation. And it is only right that the state put something in place to ensure that every municipality would live up to its obligation. And so by signing this legislation into law and by requiring all municipalities to meet its obligation, I think that's very significant, because we find that unless there is something that forces suburban municipalities in particular to shoulder its obligation, it will not happen. And we have so many young families that are not able to live in decent, quality, affordable housing. And so they are moving away, not only from their own municipalities, but from the state, because they just can't afford to live in New Jersey. And so requiring each and every municipality to do the right thing by building affordable housing so that people have that opportunity to enjoy a decent standard of living. Every person deserves to live in a decent housing situation. And there are too many of our people that are unhoused, and we have an obligation to take care of the least among us.
So Mayor Mapp, thank you for that. Let's expand a little bit on the affordable housing and the density of population in our urban communities, right? And so, Mayor Lora, you have given voice on many occasions to the need to think strategically and creatively about how people provide housing for working families, for young adults coming into your community. We talked a little bit about looking at auxiliary units and other ways of providing that opportunity in already densely populated urban centers. So to Mayor Mapp's point, we need to make sure that everyone across the state takes this seriously and has an obligation to provide affordable housing. But when you're in a city like Passaic that is densely populated, one of our larger cities, what are some of the creative ways that you're thinking about providing affordable housing?
Well, first, thank you for that. And yes, the city of Passaic at one time, and we may still be considered the fifth most densely populated city in the United States of America for populations of our size. So we have to take a very innovative and creative approach. And that's why I appreciate the urban mayors taking a multifaceted approach to address the affordability housing crisis, and it is a housing crisis. I think that it's important that as we strategically work to ensure that those who are in need of homes can receive them, there are many different approaches that we've taken in the city of Passaic, and I know that my colleagues have, whether it's creating mixed income housing projects that provide affordable options while also stimulating the local economies, dealing with developers to ensure that they are working with the city, or whether we're advocating for zoning reforms that allow for greater density in the development of affordable units in prime locations, or just community engagement to ensure that we're coming together to have our voices heard. In the city of Passaic, one of the approaches that I took, considering that we were so densely populated, was advocating for ADUs, accessory dwelling units, or what are often referred to as mother-daughter apartments or the granny apartments. I often try to remind those who grew up in my era of the Growing Pains show where Mike Seaver had his apartment over the garage. He still lived at home, but it was a separate apartment. And this gives opportunities, especially in communities like ours, for individuals, whether one or two family homes, to utilize or maximize their property. And they can build over the garage. If the basement, which is 50% above ground level, can be legally designated as a usable space, they could rent that, or potentially over their attic. And this helps in many ways. Generational wealth, instead of the kids having to move out and get into debt or go pay rent somewhere else, they can stay home, still have a certain level of autonomy and independence, but help their parents pay off their home, because inevitably and ultimately, who's going to inherit that, right? It's going to be the children. This is how you create generational wealth. For many families in urban communities like ours, lower income families, the opportunity to have additional income that helps you pay off the mortgage or meet those obligations, pay bills or pay the rent, that makes a huge difference. So the ADUs was one approach, being that we really didn't have a lot of space to build. And as I mentioned, some of the zoning restrictions make it difficult, especially when you have R1 zones or areas where people want to designate as just one family homes. But this was a unique approach that ensured that we could have equity throughout the entire city and provide opportunities to expand. And I think this came directly from conversations with the Urban Mayors Association in many of our meetings as we were putting our heads together to try to figure out innovative and effective and pragmatic approaches to addressing the housing crisis.
So accessory dwelling units, interesting. I know for some parents, they don't want those kids coming back. But I think that the ideal of building family wealth, right, is a good one. And obviously, we know that our kids are struggling when it comes to finding affordable housing coming back after college. As Mayor Mapp said, we want them to stay in Jersey, Plainfield and Passaic, hopefully, right? And so I appreciate that. So as we wrap up, let me ask a question. We are heading into a new administration in Washington and new congressional leadership. What must city leaders do to ensure that their cities receive the appropriate resources to thrive and continue to advance initiatives in areas such as infrastructure, public policy, public health, and public safety? I'm going to turn that over to you, Mayor Lora, and then Mayor Mapp for the final.
I think it's crucial for us to proactively engage with our federal representatives to advocate for the needs of our communities. I think it's paramount that organizations like the Urban Mayors Association continue to be at the forefront of these conversations and remain in the face of these elected officials. Look, there's going to be some transition and changes that will have adverse impact on some of the policies and some of the programs that are near and dear to all of our hearts. There are many conversations going on now. We have vulnerable populations, people who feel like they're not secure or stable? Will they get housing? Will they have an opportunity for childcare? Are there going to be programs that often address the concerns of those that we identify as the most marginalized, those who are dealing with food insecurities and things of this nature? So how do we ensure, the same way that we've always done, we band together, we forge forward, we continue to raise our voices, we amplify the voices of those that are seldomly heard, and we utilize our platforms and our ability with our titles and the connections that we have to let these elected officials know that they cannot forget about our communities, because we surely won't forget about them the next election cycle. And then I will conclude with this. Not just, and I started with it, so I'll end connecting it, not just the Urban Mayors Association, but all organizations. This is not the time to shy away or to remain quiet. This is the time to stand up even firmer, raise our voices even louder, and be open-minded and give the benefit of the doubt and say, we'll work with you. We'll take you at your word that you truly believe in the best of this nation. But the nation cannot be at its best when those who have the least cannot be a part of the dream.
Thank you, Mayor Mapp.
Well, we know that the next few years are going to be very challenging for all municipalities across the state of New Jersey. And I think it's important that we hold our elected congressional representatives' feet to the fire and make sure that we are in constant communication with them so that they could advocate on our behalf to make sure that we receive the resources that we need so that our cities can thrive. But not only our elected congressional delegation, there are a number of third-party entities that some municipalities contract with who know their way around Washington. And we have to also utilize those third-party entities that we try to get them to identify resources and advocate on our behalf. So it's a combination of working with our congressional delegation as well as with those third-party entities so that we are not left out and that we hold this incoming administration's feet to the fire so that we could get the resources that we need. But it's going to be difficult, but we know how to tackle difficult problems. That's why we are mayors, because we know how to get things done and we know how to use people to help us in order to provide for the residents that look to us for support each and every day.
Thank you for listening to Urban Impact, a podcast produced by Kean, New Jersey's Urban Research University. Subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get podcasts. For more information, visit kean.edu/urban-impact.